Hello and welcome to the SOS Show Live with Mary Evans. SOS stands for Share Our Stories and Help. I'm your host with a strong belief that there's power in sharing stories. We're dedicated to bring you content that will uplift, motivate, and inspire you to live your best life, physically, spiritually, mentally, and financially, which leads to leaving a legacy and building generational wealth. Today, we have an awesome guest, Mr. Chris Riley, all the way from Cleveland, Ohio. Before we go into the show, I would like for you to watch a short commercial. Thank you. Welcome to the show, Mr. Chris Riley.
Hey everybody, this is Cedric Riley. How you doing today?
Standing ovation just for you, Mr. Chris Riley.
My name is
Cedric. Yes, you are a very interesting guy, and I know you're a lot like myself. You love your community, and having love for the community, we do things that's unbelievable, things that we would never believe of doing, because we know a strong community is what changes the world, right? And changes our situation. So, Mr. Riley, first I want to talk about you being the next motivator. You also love motivating people, like, you my brother from another mother, because that is my heart and that is my love. So you are America's next motivator. Let's talk about what inspired you. America's next motivator. You have your own platform, I see, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern, and Tuesday and Thursday 10 a.m. How long you been doing the platform?
Well, I've been speaking since the year 2007. I decided to start my own show about 2 months ago.
Awesome. And what inspired you to start this show?
What inspired me to start the show was my burning desire to share my story with people no matter what. If I can't physically get out there and speak to somebody and share my story, then I'll write about it. If I can't write about it, then I'll find a way to communicate at all times. And so this show was a way for me to continue to communicate with people, to inspire and to get them to understand that success is a choice no matter what you go through. And I also decided to highlight the stories of other people's, because I understand that it's not always about my story. It's about providing motivational messages to people. So I bring other people on that platform to share their stories primarily.
Absolutely. And that's exactly how we feel, the SOS, share our stories, because it's powerful. We uplift when we inspire, we change lives by sharing stories. You have such an amazing story, and I want to talk about your childhood, because I also know that you are very passionate about the foster care system. And then we'll go from childhood and bring it up to today and what you're doing today. Now, Chris, let's talk about, you had a very challenging childhood, which led you to actually starting a program trying to change the rules and the laws in foster care. I would like for you to sort of tell us about your childhood.
I was born in the inner city of Cleveland, Ohio, and my family is a part of the very fabric of the culture of Cleveland. I'm actually from the same neighborhood that Bone Thugs and Harmony was from. And so the community that they made famous, the St. Clair area, is where my entire family is from, out of Cleveland. And so we shared a lot of knowledge and information with one another. But one of the earliest hallmarks that I saw was good times and alcoholism. And it's the alcoholism that prevailed to have the biggest impact on my life as a child and also as an adult. But it's the alcoholism that resulted in me and my brothers and sisters going into foster care the first time when I was 5 years old. My grandmother, she pulled us to the side and she said, Grandma is sick and y'all gonna be going away for a while. And we didn't really understand what she meant. But when we came home from school one day, we were taken to a foster home, which turned out to be an abusive experience for us.
So this is really something because we have a couple of people here in the city that have a similar story like yours and started a program which changed lives. And one of our very popular guys in the city is so funny. His name is Chris Riley, and I had him on my mind. I think I introduced you as Chris. If I did, I apologize. Cedric. Chris works with the kids here, and there's another one, Kawan Howerton. I've been talking to him about you. I want to connect because they all are so passionate about the children. And he started a basketball program to sort of keep them off the streets. And that's what you're trying to do, is create something that can help these children. Now, you say that you had 5 siblings and all of you ended up in foster care, and you guys were in separate homes, or were you fortunate enough to be put in the same home?
So there are 5 of us total. I'm the oldest of the 5. We have 5 different fathers. And once we came back from foster care the first time, my 2 younger brothers weren't living with us. It was just me and my 2 younger sisters who went into foster care the first time. And when we came home, my mother began to get back into the picture and fight with my grandmother over custody of us. And one day my mother came across town and she banged on the door. She stormed into the living room, and we're sitting back watching my grandmother and my mother almost come to blows because my mother wants to take us out of the house, but my grandmother is saying, no, these are my children at this time. And so I was apprehensive because I didn't want to see my mother attack my grandmother. And my mother told us to go upstairs and to pack our clothes. And that very night, my mother walked us out of that house to live with her. And that took us on a roller coaster that really set us up for the rest of our lives, which would entail poverty, living homeless in Cleveland. My mother, with no support from our 5 fathers, really was in a struggle with alcoholism, drug addiction. And on one particular night, my brothers and sisters and I, we were in this dark house, condemned house. This is where we lived. It was a condemned house. And everybody was out on the porch playing cards and drinking. And out of nowhere, this gentleman named Dino, he stood up and he put a gun to my mother's head in the middle of the street. And so me and my brothers and sisters are standing in the window. He got a gun to my mother's head. And instead of my mother standing there, my grandmother ran out the house and pushed my mother out the way, and she put herself in front of the gun. And so after that, different people of the community called 696 Kids on my mother, and that's how we went into foster care.
Oh my goodness. And are you in contact with your siblings now? Are you guys pretty close now? Because a lot of stories you hear, sometimes foster care, you never really unite and come back together, and sometimes you do. Were you fortunate enough for you guys as you got older to come back together, or no?
One thing about me and my brothers and sisters is that my grandmother instilled lessons into us fiercely. And my mother did the same thing. Even though my mother dealt with drugs and she dealt with being out on the street, she had a very strong, charismatic personality. And one thing that they taught us was to stick together no matter what. So no matter where I was in foster care, I've always made phone calls. I've written letters, I've emailed, gotten on Facebook, and I'm proud to say that my brothers and sisters, we communicate every single day.
Awesome. That is so awesome. Cedric, what would you say to someone that's out here now that might be in foster care, listening to the show and feeling defeated, have siblings out there? What would you say to them to keep just to keep them motivated, or different ways of dealing with being in the system and just staying motivated and feeling that they're worthy and they could still be successful as you are?
First thing I would say is you have to adjust your mentality to a warrior's mentality. That's the first thing you need to do, is realize that your heart is going to have to carry you a lot of the way. You can't let life happen to you. You're going to have to get into the driver's seat of your life. You're gonna have
Right.
to be strong. You're gonna have to realize that even though your mother might not be around, your mother is in you. She's with you. Even though your father might not be around, he's in you. He's with you. And you have to embrace the totality of yourself and make yourself a parent. You're going to have to become able to guide yourself by listening to yourself. Do what people tell you not to do and listen to yourself. Believe in yourself. And once you start doing that, then you'll activate a consciousness that can help you make the right decisions in life.
Mr. Riley, can we touch bases a little bit about your relationship with your mom uh, after you guys were older? You know, I've heard the stories where the children don't want to have a relationship at all. And then I hear stories where, you know, because sometimes we don't forgive. You say she struggled with with the drugs, and we know that was a sickness. But how is your relationship with mom? And how are the other siblings? Do they forgive her? Do you guys talk, or is that a touchy situation right now?
No, it's not. It's not touchy because I use my life to make the world a better place. And my mother, she gave us a lot of inspiration, even though she dealt
Okay.
with drugs and alcoholism. She was a big influence on all of us. Me myself, being the
Okay.
firstborn, I took her influence with me everywhere that I went. And so, even though she dealt with drugs, and even though she dealt with alcoholism and dysfunction, I love her. I love her dearly. And so
Oh,
when we went into foster care, my mother told us as we left. See, the way we went into foster care was this. You know, my mother, we were all living in a condemned house, and we were going back and forth to school. So a lot of the days I would wake up and go to wake my brothers and sisters up and try to hurry up and catch the school bus because nobody was waking us up. I remember washing our clothes in cold water in the dark because we didn't have heat and we didn't have electricity. And so we were still going to school doing what we were taught to do by our grandmother. Those were the lessons we were holding on to, but we always listened to our mother. And one day when we came home, our mother told us that due to what happened with she had the gun to her head, that a social worker had stopped by. But see, my mother had told that social worker that, you know, she would have to come back with the entire police department if she thought that she was going to take her children from her. But just in case, my mother told us to go upstairs and pack our bags just in case. And that night, the social worker came back with the police. And as we walked out of that door, it was like the path of no return. And our mother told us, listen, I'm going to get y'all out of foster care. She made visitations at first, but eventually, you know, she started missing her visitations. And then
oh,
eventually we got called into counseling. We got pulled out of school, called into counseling. And they told us that our mother had been murdered and that she was no longer with us. My baby brother at that time was laughing and joking because he was too young to understand what these people were telling us. But we later found out that our mother had passed away in a violent altercation that involved drugs and
oh,
her being out there unprotected. So I continued to go through foster care without my mother. My mother died while I was in foster care.
oh, so sorry to hear that. You are definitely a motivator to anyone that's out there listening. You have been through a lot, so have your siblings, and all you guys are still moving forward and still following your passion and your dream. Once you started this nonprofit, uh, how are you reaching out now? Tell us about the nonprofit and what are you guys doing?
Mm-hmm. Well, if I can, I just want to also include this. I was adopted into a loving home at the age of 15. Adoption changed my life. There are several families that I need to let everybody know that I love. I
Okay.
love my I love my mother's side of the family. I love my adopted family dearly. And I also discovered who my father was. And so when I talk about my story today, I must also include that I know who my father was now. I know who my father's side of the family is now, and I love them as well. I'm also a representation of them. And so all of those discovery of myself by remembering my biological family, the
Yeah.
discovery of my potential through my adoption and my opportunity to be the best I can possibly be, and then the discovery of my manhood by finding out who my father was and the greatness that exists in that side of the family. I now carry with me a legacy of
Yeah.
giving back to the young people who are in care today, and letting them hear my voice, look me in the face on a daily basis on America's Next Motivator, understand that success is a choice. But I don't want to just be speaking on anybody's stage and young people think, oh no, he's just a brother with a suit on impressing me with a story. So what I've been doing for the past 9 years, because I walked away from my college campus to create a way, to create several ways to make life better for youth coming out of the foster care system. So at this time, I have started a 501c3 nonprofit. The point of that nonprofit is to become a center for rites of passage for young people in the foster care system.
Yes, that's amazing. I want to talk about, the more I learn about the foster care system, like anything else that we're dealing with, it always is areas that we need to work on trying to make better. Cedric, could you tell me about this aging out? If I'm not mistaken, at the age of 18, is that the age that they consider? Let's talk about that. Because I know you want to make changes in regards to that. At 18 years of age, what happened with you?
Well, I was adopted at the age of 15 years old. So
Okay.
my 18-year experience is a little bit different from young people who age out.
Okay.
Now I'll talk about both. First and foremost, I was adopted at the age of 15 and given a new start. Essentially, I was given an opportunity to live in a suburban neighborhood, a safe neighborhood, and really, grow into my actual identity. So by the time I graduated from high school, I had over $150,000 in scholarship offers. I had won over 5-7 different leadership awards, academic excellence awards, and I had already began sharing my story. At 18 years old, I was traveling the country sharing my story with people. In fact, my very first speaking engagement was an international keynote speech for the Dave Thomas Wendy's Wonderful Kids Foundation. But when it comes to young people aging out of the foster care system, these are people who were never adopted.
Okay.
They went from one foster home to another, and then when they become 18, or in some states 21, maybe even 23, you get cast out onto the streets. And once you become cast out onto the streets, you're homeless. And so what we understand now by way of a Harvard case study is that there is a 47% correlation between foster care and homelessness. Foster care and homelessness. So what I'd like to say is that when you are in foster care, you are homeless the whole entire time. Homelessness is not what you talk about while you're in foster care, but you're homeless. You're going from one home to the next, to the next, to the next. But when your services run out, it becomes completely clear that you're homeless. Now, just because you get adopted doesn't mean that you won't also end up out there on the streets. Young people who get adopted, they also end up out there on the streets because you got to get out there and you got to bang your head from time to time and figure out what's right and what's wrong. And so,
right.
A lot of people who have been in a child welfare system, they end up homeless on the streets. And if you're in a city like Cleveland, you can get killed. You can get killed trying to sleep in a park.
Yeah.
And so it's a life-threatening circumstance for thousands of people in America who are aging out and who are being cast out onto the streets of America, and they didn't ask for that outcome. They didn't ask to be sleeping on somebody's couch. They didn't ask to be in need of a place to stay as a young adult. And so
you don't hear a lot about it. You don't hear a lot of news coverage. I think this is so important, especially about the aging out at 18 years of age. Like, it's so many people don't even understand how serious of a problem this is, how many of our foster care children end up homeless, sleeping in the streets, and which makes them turn to criminal activities. Our ladies having to do things to survive. If you could change anything about the system with a magic wand right now, Cedric, what would that be?
If I could change anything about the system, I would create a place called the Pride Empowerment Network, which would offer a holistic, phenomenal experience in life. It will be a place where you could go and grow, have a rites of passage into manhood or a rites of passage into womanhood. And then you could share your story, and then you would be compensated extremely well for becoming a productive citizen. You would gain credit in our own marketplace, the Pride Empowerment Network marketplace, and you would be able to continually make positive sense in your life. You would get sense in return for making sense. And then we will become an asset to society as the child welfare system, the foster care system will become an asset. We will produce America's next motivators. If I could, I would create the Pride Empowerment Network. It will be sponsored by the Pride Empowerment Network. It will be supported by a software which I'm creating. It will be then also supported by a piece of hardware that I'm creating. And so technology brings hope.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cedric, I've heard so many horror stories about children in the foster system. We've seen some, where they're sexually abused, physically abused, mentally abused, and a lot of the children are taken in just for the money. Would you say to anyone out here that may have experienced that or watching the show and that they are, what can you tell them? Because I know a lot of them are in a situation they're scared to talk. You've been there, Cedric. What advice or what could you tell them if someone was watching the show now?
I would say you got to hold on and you have to get your mind right. A lot of time when we're going through foster care, you're being mistreated. People reminding you that you're here because your parents didn't want you.
Right.
You're here because nobody else will take you. But, as a 13-year-old or a 14, 15-year-old, somebody's talking to you like that, you just can't run away. Because if you run away, then you'll be on the streets at 13 and 14 and 15. That's why I say hold on. And while you're holding on, you have to develop a mindset of strength. Because one day you're going to be out there. One day you're going to be out there. You're going to have to be able to avoid drinking. You're going to have to be able to avoid drugs. You're going to have to be able to avoid predators. There are so many predators.
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, this is what I'm getting to. There are so many predators who prey on young people in the foster care system and people who are out there with no support. We got to mutate. Youth in foster care are up against an impossibility of survival. The only way you're going to survive is if you transform. You got to transform because I'm telling you to. You can't transform because the person you living with is encouraging you to transform. They're not going to tell you to turn into your best self. Unless you get lucky. A lot of the time, you're in foster care and people are mistreating you, treating you like a stepchild that nobody asked for.
Yes.
But one way or another, you have to transform into the best version of yourself. And so what you've got to do is you got to stick in there and you got to figure out a way to succeed and to really get forward to the next chapter of life, because death is always right around the corner when you don't have no support.
Yeah, that's just really what I was talking about, is that it's so many people that pray because look at all the times I'm sure they've heard you're here because nobody loved you. You here because your mother, your father didn't want you. And we assume that if you are adopting a child or you are part of the foster care to take care of these children, you sort of feel like, okay, they're in a safe place. Why would people be a foster parent if they wasn't interested, wasn't caring? But so many times it's all about the money. So we need people like you and programs that you're putting together to help. If someone wanted to donate money to your nonprofit, Cedric, how could they do that?
They wanted to donate money, they could get in touch with me, Cedric Riley, on Facebook at Cedric Speaks. Or my Cash App is $ANM show, $ANM show. They could donate that way or simply get in touch and set up a private donation. I appreciate support from people. What I'm trying to do is create a curriculum, a supremely motivational experience for youth in foster care. I realize that people in the foster care system today, they need motivational experiences. They need somebody to come in and motivate them. They need me to come in and share my story and let them know it does not stop with your story. It starts with your story, but it goes from your story to the evolution of yourself to the manifestation of your best self. And so I'm on a mission to motivate all 440,000 youth in the foster care system today. And in order to acquire a little piece of motivation from me, people can go to www.motivatefosterkids.com and acquire Seminar Soundtrack, which is a motivational performance that I've made available to anybody, you could go to www.motivatefosterkids.com and acquire a seminar soundtrack to inspire your youth and young people there.
Oh my God, Mr. Riley, you are amazing. Once this pandemic is over, I would love to invite you to our studio and do a live motivational talk in regards to this subject. It's just a subject that we just, like I said, we don't hear enough about it at all. And we must get the education out here so we could understand what the children are going through and what are the needs once they leave foster care. We would like to end the show. Yes.
Can I say something?
Yes.
What we need is a place, and that's what I'm seeking to do, is to create a place. So when you donate to me, when you support me, you are supporting a solution for the foster care industry. I am creating a place that's going to be a partner to the child welfare system. I realize that the child welfare system, it needs partners. And like people say, don't ask what your country could do for you, ask what you can do for your country. So what I'm seeking to do is to become a partner with the child welfare space, so that you can send your young people to my building, and I will give my life on the line to enhance them, and I will recruit partners, people like Ambition the Poet, people like Khalita Orta. I will bring my people in to pour into you, put my life on the line, put my story on the line, and give you my energy. When I leave this earth, all my energy will be deposited into the people who decide to align with me. And when I leave this earth, people who are a member of the Pride Empowerment Network, they're going to be in a much, much, much better space, because I'm putting my life on the line for that.
Oh, I love it. Love it. You definitely are in your calling. You know that you are. And when you speak, the spirit, your body language, the look in your eyes. Mr. Curtis Lee, proud of you, my guy. You are amazing, and you're going to do amazing things.
Yes, ma'am. Can I just want to say that Curtis is another person that I really appreciate out there. He came from similar beginnings to me. He grew up in a dangerous neighborhood in Cleveland, Ohio, and today he has his own clothing company. And so it's stories like that. Stories like that I want to raise awareness about. I want everybody to come together to share their stories and begin to pay it forward to the next generation. We got to start telling our stories. Nobody's telling their stories. It shouldn't just be, Cedric is telling his story, but nobody else is. The young people in foster care today, they need every last one of our stories, because they losing their mother, they losing their father, they miss their brother, they miss their aunties, they miss their uncles, they miss their cousins, and they need our stories. So we need to start sharing our stories, and we need to break down the red tape of access to the youth in foster care. It's 400,000 youth in the foster care system. We need access to them. We need to motivate them. We need to let them know what we're learning. Hold on, I need to let the world know something too as well, if I can.
Yes. And we're going to end this show after this comment. We had a clip we're going to play later. We'll play it during one of our commercials on the show, but we'll let you do this comment. I want to say Lex Smith said, yes, so proud of you, Cedric. Hello, you Miss Lex Smith. Thank you for watching the show. Yeah. Elena Taylor goals. Elena Taylor aspirations and goals in life. So you have a lot of people out there that love you, but we'll let you get it. What was the last comment you wanted to get in, Mr. Riley?
Yes, ma'am. The one thing I wanted to say was that I'm a product of the lessons of my grandmother, my mother, my uncles, my aunties, Yolanda Riley, and my father's side of the family as well, Aunt Tootsie. I'm a walking representation, my grandmother, the legacy there. And I need to let the world know, I've never said that I was perfect. I had to overcome alcoholism as an adult, and that was my flaw, that I went out there and I slay the beast of alcoholism in my life. And so now I'm anchored and I'm prepared to be a role model and a leader for those people who can identify with me. And I hope that it's each and every one of you out there watching.
Thank you so much for an amazing show. We'll bring you back a part 2 with Cedric Riley. Thanks, you guys. Please share and like. And I just want to say, keep up the good work. and let's stay in contact with the SOS show. I definitely want to bring you back for another episode. You be safe and talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.